those seeds of value have to be planted because we're at war.
Yeah.
And by the time we realize it, it'll be too late.
Right. That long-term planning and kind of changing, it seems like a massive change in the mindset and looking at it differently. It seems as if, and it goes back to what you were saying earlier, it's kind of an individualistic survival mode that can capture a lot of people. But if we take the time to realize the beauty in our community and surroundings, you know, that organization is a powerful thing because we're already powerful without a lot of it. And I mean, in terms of, because that goes back to what that dream looks like. And for a lot, the dream is to leave maybe a community where people look like you, because that isn't necessarily what success looks like. How can we change that narrative? Because I think that's a big part of it, you know?
Well, I mean, the worst part about that narrative is everyone wants to have a better quality of life.
Of course.
Absolutely. And everyone should be afforded that opportunity. The statement that has been made in the past where taxation without representation is tyranny is what we've been living under. Mm-hmm. We've actually been living through because it's been here, right?
Yeah.
Where is the representation of our tax dollars that can undergird our community, right? We have money that's going into the pot and feeding the pot, but at the same time, the return on investment is not there because we're always getting up. We're always going to work. We always have ambition. You know, even the person who looks unambitious has ambition.
Right.
But the challenge is to switch it into go mode. We've made, in many ways, the lack of tools and making something out of nothing become so attractive that it's almost like they don't need nothing.
Right.
Because they ain't saying they need nothing. We know the squeaky wheel gets the oil, but we need. But the people have been so jaded by the process that they don't want to include themselves in it. My thing is to get people to understand that non-participation is participation. If you don't use your voice for you, your inaudible voice will be used against you.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge, right? And so when we think about the trend, nobody, I think, organizationally has said to themselves collectively, let's project ourselves into the future. Maybe in silos and groups, but collectively, if we participate in this exercise of living in the past, present, future tense of self, mm-hmm. we would have seen this coming. And even now, the way that it's being described, 200,000 or more have left Harlem for a better quality of life because it's too expensive to live in Harlem. So we're being priced out. Therefore, we're being pushed out. But the plot is even more sinister than that. Because if it's all politics, and we know it's all politics, every single thing, the fact that, you know, the laws and the ordinances of the land go through the political process, the fact that the streets are made to be safe even for your vehicle, so therefore you won't have potholes in your lawn. Right. All of these things, the conditions that says, even though you might not be able to earn like me, we're going to make it a fair system, so therefore you will be included and not excluded. And so people are running for the hills.
Yeah.
Because we are literally having a choice to make. Am I going to feed my family or pay the rent? Because if I pay the rent, I know that I may leave to go to work tomorrow and come back home and there may be an eviction notice on my door. And then psychosocially, what happens? Right? Because the first part of the mental emotional state is what you do to yourself. And so when we're looking at all of that, if we get a little bit of money and we say, you know what, I mean, back in the days, everyone who had some means, whether legally or illegally, man, they would pull their nice vehicle right in front of the projects.
Yeah.
But the thought was, well, if you can have that nice vehicle sitting in the front of the projects, you can most certainly have a home.
Yeah.
And some of them wisened up and got homes and things of that nature. They flipped their reality into something else. But imagine our level of participation growing. Imagine us saying, you know what? Let me participate in an exercise. Let me just see. What's going to happen if over the course of the next, let's give it like an odd number, 5 elections.
Okay.
I don't want to say 5 years, right? I want to say over the course of the next 5 elections.
Okay.
I'm going to participate. I just want to see what's going to happen. So if King Towers participates, game over.
Yeah. Yeah.
If Lincoln Projects participates, I mean, game over.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking like, we're talking about a body of people who don't vote at all near the rate of smaller groups who understand what organization means.
Yeah, and I think that's such a powerful message, and it leads to something I really wanted to ask you, because we've had the privilege of being able to interview a couple of politicians here, and yourself too. And I want to ask you the importance of local politics. Can you get into that so the viewers understand more about how important it is, what your local councilman does, and those, just the day-to-day responsibility and how much more of an impact people have than they realize.
I mean, think about it. We've heard and remembered statements like, a people united will never be defeated.
Yeah.
Right? And if all politics is local, which is true, we also know that if we participate in our local politics, then that means that we get what we need. Right?
Yeah.
I didn't say we get what we want. Right?
Right.
Because, when you think about the needs of a people, food, clothing, shelter, right? Mm-hmm. Do I need that Gucci bag? No, I don't need it. But do I need a bag to put my food in? Yeah, I may need a bag to carry my food back home.
Yeah.
Occupying all spaces means not just grooming ourselves to assume positions of authority and power, but it also means to educate ourselves collectively to understand what the process is. That process of education has to be understood from the perspective that if I participate, I'm sorry, let me say, if I don't participate,
yeah,
the system is going to still move forward without me. And my non-participation is going to be multiplied, because I'm going to be the one that's not going to get anything. And so the resources that are in our community, the efforts, I think, are there because we've been made to believe we shouldn't participate. I'm not going to do it. You know what? They steal your vote. So the hypothetical is, if I participate, they're going to steal my vote.
Right.
But this is the other part of the reality too. Who's the person or people that is being groomed to assume the levels and positions of authority, so that when you do participate, you have something to participate in.
Yeah.
But if you're not even grooming yourselves, and we're waiting for government to step in, we're waiting for handouts. We need that, yes. But in the meantime, in between time, 5 voting cycles, let's participate. Let's see what happens.
Right.
You want your doors to be fixed? You want the conditions in the community to be better? You want your streets to be clean? You want your streets to be safe? We can do all of that. You want affordable housing. Guess what? Affordable housing should be the standard. And then, for those who need it, let's make it permanent. And for those who needed it for a moment, let's now thrive so that we don't have to worry about moving out of the same community that birthed the Harlem Renaissance. That we can resuscitate the very soul of Harlem so that we can participate in the second Harlem Renaissance.
Right. The long plan is, I think, is really key, and I wanted to backtrack a little bit just so the viewers understand a little bit more background. Can you tell them how you got into politics in general?
Yeah, I got into politics in general because, when I thought about, and I mean, I've been thinking about politics loosely for years, like since I was a child. But when we were found innocent in 2002, most people didn't even remember the Central Park Five. It was a case that was swept under the rug. As a matter of fact, when we started going into the junior high schools and high schools, and they would say, we're introducing the members of the Central Park Five, some people thought we were singing groups.
Yeah.
It's disgusting how history is taught.
Yeah.
Right? And retained and all of that. But when we were found innocent, we started marching. We started rallying. We started crying out for justice. As a matter of fact, the call was justice for the Central Park Five. I thought, the thought just came to me one day. Here we are fighting, organizing, addressing our grievances. Who's in City Hall that is hearing us?
Yeah.
And who is going to echo our voices in the halls of power? And more importantly, to fast forward to now, those who are closest to the pain have to have a seat at the table.
Yeah.
Because organizing and fighting for what your community needs can be really understood by a person who's from the community, who's experienced the same types of things that you all experienced. Right? I had an eviction notice on my door. I came home from prison having to say, on the job application, list your past experience. Right now, I think we should push for inmates, returning citizens who are coming home, especially the ones who have paid their debt to society. They should be given the opportunity to have all they did translated and transformed, new language-wise, into what they actually did. So if you sold in the tailor shop, you can say I participated in the garment industry.
Yeah.
If you worked in food service, right? If you were you worked in a mess hall, I'm already flipping it to the new language, right? If you worked in a mess hall, you worked in food service.
Right.
You cleaned up the galleries, you worked in custodial services. These are things that people did for years.
Right.
These are skill sets that people had. And when we come home from prison, we have these huge gaps where we can't say, what have you been doing for the past 5, 10, 15, 20, in some of the most egregious cases, 40 years.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that because this is of the individuals who've been found innocent through DNA evidence. But I'm focused on them. But I'm focused also on the individual who's been found guilty for crimes they may have committed. And if they paid their debt to society, we should not be a punitive society, penalizing them over and over again.
That makes a lot of sense in terms of the narrative and the years that can be translated into a skill outside. And I want to also ask anyone watching or just in general, what are some other, especially from your experience, some preventative measures where someone has served their time and they've come out and, things are maybe not as easy as they thought it would be? What are some ways we can give them hope and inspire them not to make some decisions to go back inside.
Those of us who care and who have businesses have to participate and allow for those types of individuals to get second chances.
Yeah.
I've met a lot of them, but we need more. We need people to be proactive in that process. You know, meeting them perhaps maybe before they come home. Who's the person inside, behind the walls, that's organizing the individual who's coming home from prison to be able to not be a scourge on society, to be meaningfully employed, gainfully in some instances, right? How do we get that part done? I think all of it is just about planning. All of it is about us looking at things through different lenses. If we asked those individuals who are inside, what does success look like for them? We would find out exactly how to be successful.
Right.
And I'm saying because I was in there, I'm thinking about all of the things that they told me. Try to find a job. Be a part of family. Be a part of community, right? A lot of times we shy away from that, not because we want to, but because we've been stigmatized. That person is just like we need to do away with the stigma of mental health.
Yeah.
Everybody deals with mental health. We experienced that through COVID. Every single person had a challenge that they had to overcome.
Yeah.
But for those of us who have been in prison, I'm not saying it was easier, but we fell back into the groove. Oh, cool. I can't move nowhere. They locked us down. You know, they shut it down. Okay, cool. But the mental work, the ability to say, well, what am I going to utilize this time for? Right? And I think the other side to that is just knowing that we need you. Every single person is of value. The human potential is at stake. And if we can tap into the human potential and allow for that to flourish, the beauty that will result in that will be profound. But codified it in such a way, like I said earlier, if we live in the past, present, future tense of self, that it's not just for me, but it is for the future generations. It's rippling into that future.
Yeah. It seems like it comes down to the long-term planning and that participation. And we have to, in an expedited manner though, we have to do that rapidly because like you said, it's chess where we are behind on some things.
Absolutely.
And politics is similar to chess. I wanted to ask you, since you've been now, especially in New York City politics with so many different dynamics, what are some things that you were maybe surprised by since you've been in politics on this journey so far? Like some things you weren't expecting, good and bad. I'm really curious to ask you that.
I don't know if I've been that surprised by too much.
Okay.
You know, I think that when you have an excellent team that allows for the meaning of what's going on to be understood, nothing is surprising. You know, we are a family in politics. And just like all families, sometimes disagreements go down. But the beautiful thing about it is that after the struggle to become the one, we then go back to the family. We can then go back to being able to sit around the Thanksgiving table or the Christmas table or whatever table and still break bread with each other. Right. Still understand that, you know, it's about the greater good and pushing the needle forward together. And I think for me, and maybe that's the surprising part, right? Maybe the surprising part is being behind the curtain and seeing how things work. Whereas for those of us who've never participated, who've only been run over by the spike wheels of justice, right, we say, how could they do this to me, right? But going behind the curtain and saying, oh, you know what? I'm going to make sure that it never happens again. And this is how. It's not enough to say never again. Now we have to codify it in law.
Yeah.
We got to make sure that we make it so.
Gotta implement for sure. In terms of like what you think makes a great leader, organizer, an effective politician, what are some of those characteristics, would you say?
I think making sure that you listen to your constituents, making sure that their voices are always heard, and making sure that they know that you're going to try your best. Because unfortunately, when new energy shows up on the scene that's different than what was, it almost seems like this is the magic that we've been waiting for.
Yeah.
And therefore, everything is going to be paradise. But the real magic is us organizing ourselves, us believing in ourselves, us saying, he's not going to be able to do it by himself. So therefore, when he needs us, and matter of fact, before he needs us, we're going to strengthen ourselves up so that when it's time to lift this mountain, we're all going to participate. And that's going to be the miracle.
Yeah.
And so to lead for me is to serve. It's about understanding that all along the way, serving the people correctly, properly, being the figurehead for all of the people's, concerns, and making sure that you collectivize it. So if we look at every concern, it might be 1,000 different concerns, 1,000 variations, but there may be consistency throughout where you can say this is a bucket, and all of this might fall into this particular category, and we can put this underneath the umbrella of that and make sure we all benefit.
I love that.
100 yards, 100 yards, 100 yards, 100 yards. Run it, run it, run it. Swing. 100 yards, 100 yards, 100 yards, 100 yards. Run it, run it, run it.